Hello and welcome to another episode of the CAGED Canary podcast on Before Magic. I'm your host, Mahdi Gilbert, and today I wanted to talk to all of you about how to use the internet for magic, how to responsibly use the internet for magic, as this is becoming more and more a prevalent topic. And to be honest, I see more and more blatant abuse of magic, disrespect of magic on these platforms, and it is something that bothers me. But instead of focusing today on the things that bother me and the things that people are doing wrong, I I wanted to go in the other direction and talk to you guys and girls about what you can do right on the platforms that are online, YouTube, Instagram, etc., that is moving magic forward, or at least is a place that can be used to move magic forward. The most obvious thing you can do is perform magic. Now, that sounds like a given. You would think that people would see a new technological medium such as the internet, and they would harness the power of it in order to share their magic with the world. That's what magicians have traditionally done. You have Dunninger and Maurice Fogel using the radio back in their day. The radio was brand new. This was many decades ago. Radio was brand new and becoming popularized. People had radios in their homes, and these were magicians and mentalists that would perform over the radio, and it was quite phenomenal, their show. If you, especially there's a ton of write-ups of their shows. One of the most interesting ones is from Maurice Fogel, who did a sort of a Halloween special on the radio, which is super fascinating. If you guys want to check that out, that's Maurice Fogel. And later on, you had television, which was the next mass method of communication that entered into people's homes. And what TV allowed people to do was to see magic. It didn't matter where they were in the world. Someone could record something in a studio or on a stage and deliver it right to the viewer at home. And there's been a history of great magic specials. There's the one from I think it was made in 1957, featuring Cardini and a bunch of other magicians. I forget exactly what the title of it was. We actually have a video of Cardini up on our YouTube channel, and we have that. We also have that full episode from that 1957 special. I forget what it was called, but if you look on our YouTube channel, you should be able to find it. And it has many great acts of that day. And what was fascinating about this is, I mean, you could have never seen magic in your life. You could, not have known what it was, and all of a sudden it was in your living room. There were magicians in your living room speaking through the TV, and you would look at that little piece of glass on your TV and watch them perform magic, and it was incredible. And even though there were some basic special effects back then, and they were utilized in film and on television, most magicians were literally performing their acts. So it was a very interesting and fascinating time for magic, because you could really see people doing their real work. And commercials and just the whole process of production was a lot different than it is nowadays. So you could see magicians' whole uncut acts in many of these early programs. Nowadays, it's highly edited and shortened, and it's just TV. People, they want to tell you that people have shorter attention spans, and you have to perform your whole set in 3 minutes. um, so that was that medium. And before I move on to the internet and YouTube and all those things, I want to talk about how those mediums were being used. They were being used to show magic, and people would love the magic, become excited by the magic, fascinated, enchanted, and they would want to see that magician perform live. They would want to be able to see if that magician can actually do what they did over the radio or over the television in a live context. And these platforms were drivers to bring people to theaters and to engage in a live experience. And that tradition followed. You can see Doug Henning doing it. David Copperfield did all of his specials in order to build his name across the U.S. and really the world and sell tickets to his show. And a modern example of that in the UK is Darren Brown, who has also had many successful runs of many variations of different shows that he's run throughout the years in the UK and even abroad. He did a run in New York last year. So these were this technology and magicians using technology is not new, but the way they were using it was very intelligent. They were using it to present their magic, and they were very smart. They weren't just performing their regular magic on these mediums, on these platforms. Many of the better magicians were looking at the mediums, looking at how they function, and looking at the end user experience and designing their magic around that to really create the best possible magic, one that keeps the relational trust in between the viewer at home and the magician intact. That means not using camera editing, camera trickery in order as a primary method of accomplishing their magic. And but to go back to the main point, it was to share magic with people through the performance of magic. And once people were hooked and they fell in love with magic, because don't kid yourself. Most people don't get to experience magic on a regular basis. Unless you live in a country that's highly saturated in magic, at a specific time when it is saturated by magic. For example, when Juan Tamariz was performing on TV every day in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And you really are exposed to a high level of great magic on a regular basis. Most people who haven't experienced that have experienced the complete opposite, and that is the total lack of magic. They haven't experienced magic at all. They've never encountered a good magician. I mean, let alone a great magician. They don't even know what a great magician is. They don't even know what a good magician is. They've never encountered it. They've never seen one, and they've never run into one in real life. So you have to consider that the public standard for magic, their awareness of magic, their ability to critique magic is very low because they just have such a low level of exposure. They really haven't experienced magic, and they really don't know what it is or what it is about. So your job as a magician or somebody who is becoming a magician is to use these platforms in order to share your magic with people through the performance of magic. That is your number one goal. And the number one, and there's a few things that happen from that. One, you build a fan base of people who love your work, love your magic, and love magic in general. And you use that leverage in order to get people to come to live events. That's how magicians traditionally made money, through touring with shows. They would build their name up through advertising, and then once they were well established and well known. And by the way, I'm not mentioning all the mediums. I never mentioned newspapers. I never mentioned. I sort of skip some mediums, but I'm just talking about the digital. I guess even back then, radio was a digital. I don't know how I would categorize some of this technology, but I hope you do get my meaning and why I am skipping such things as newspapers, which I really shouldn't skip because it is an important part, but I don't have enough time to cover newspapers right now. Although newspapers had the same effect in taking a different method. But their primary goal was to share magic with people, to share wonder, and then get people to come see live magic and experience it for real. That was the premise. Now, with the internet, there's been a lot of gray zones, and the reason why there's a lot of gray zones is because there's public arenas and there's private arenas. There's places where you can exchange ideas privately or securely, meaning not, searchable to everyone, not joinable to everyone. You can have some level of barrier, even if that barrier is they have to sign up to a mailing list, or they have to, create an account on a locked section of a website, or something like that. That is what I mean by a private arena. And you have public arenas, for example, YouTube and different websites that people leave public. And on those websites, especially some of these platforms, they're really designed to spread content. For example, YouTube is designed to spread videos that retain people's attention. YouTube is a company that makes their money off of advertising, so it's in their best interest to promote things that retain viewers' interest and attention and get them to watch other videos. The longer someone's session is on YouTube, and by session I mean how long they stay on YouTube without clicking off to another website, the more valuable they are to YouTube as someone to advertise to. So they promote content that people are watching and engaging with. And if you look at all the magic videos on YouTube, and I'm not going to talk about a specific category, there's a lot of videos. There's some videos showing you magic. There's some videos. There's a great channel by Daniel Madison where he just sits down and he talks about magic. He talks about the magic industry, the magic world, and himself as a magician, and just magicians in general, without exposing different things in different videos. He's just sitting there talking, and that's quite fascinating. So there's different content. There's people performing, there's people talking, there's people just exposing magic, there's people teaching. So there's all these realms, and in the future of magic, I believe, is on technology. I mean, we will continue to use the technology that is in front of us. And I'm a big fan of people putting magic on YouTube. I love to see magic videos on YouTube. But we also have a responsibility to protect secrets, which I'm going to talk about in a different podcast, because this is not the place to talk about that. I'm personally against exposing real magic secrets on an open platform like YouTube. I don't think it's appropriate to do that publicly. But that's not what I want to focus on here. I want to talk about how to best use this technology. And I would say that the best way to use this technology is to continue using it the way magicians have used it. You can perform magic and have somebody record it, and that be a very powerful experience for the viewer at home. In fact, the most popular videos on YouTube related to magic are performances of magic. These performances are from many times world-class magicians, either performing on TV or not on TV. Maybe it's a candid, camera situation where somebody just pulled out their phone and started recording. So you do have a variety of these performances being shared. And the reason why people share magic is because they want to share wonder in the world. Not only magicians want to share wonder in the world, people do. People want to see something impossible and share it with those around them. And as magicians, that is our primary goal, and that is what we need to aim for before anything else. Performing magic for people on these public platforms. If you are using these public platforms like YouTube, Instagram, etc., your number one goal should be to perform magic on them and to introduce magic and great magicians to your viewers, and lead that to people who watch. Go see a live show. I mean, you should be harnessing that attention and that interest to lead people to go and seek out a live experience of magic, because there really is nothing like seeing magic live. You can see it on video, it's very good. There is nothing like seeing it live. Another thing that is wonderful, and I've personally just never seen it done well on the platform of YouTube, is there's a category of magic where the magic happens to the spectator. The spectator does the effect for themselves at home, and these are effects that you can do over the radio or do over the internet. You can literally tell the viewer at home, grab a deck of cards at home, shuffle the deck. You're going to turn over the top card. Great. Now lose it in the middle of the deck. Do this, do that. And at the end of all your instructions, there's a magical climax. There's a magical effect. And the viewer is sitting at home watching this, and they're literally fooling themselves. They're performing magic for themselves. This is such a great area of magic, something that's not explored or really used by magicians. And to be honest, it's a shame. I haven't seen any magicians on these platforms doing it well. I've seen magicians doing it. I haven't seen anybody doing it well. So I would recommend, if you are a magician using these open platforms and you have a public account, you should be using these primarily to share magic with people. Now, I understand that there's also a lot of magicians that teach magic that want to go more in depth with other magicians and show people and create a path for people who aren't magicians to become magicians. They want to help guide people become magicians. They want to, and they also want to help people who are magicians become better magicians. I'm all for that. I think the better we can. First of all, I don't think everyone should be a magician. So I think it's cool if everybody knows a magic trick or two that they can do for their friends or family. I think that would be great. But I don't think everybody in the world needs to be a magician. But for the people who you do want to help become better at magic, and I personally believe that if the people who do perform magic, if they are better at performing what they are performing, regardless, I don't care if you're it doesn't matter to me if you're some kid or some, corporate guy and you just learned one trick and it's a trick that you do in the boardroom or the bar after work. You only know one trick. I don't care. I just want you to be able to do that to the best of your ability and the best that you can. I want every single time that you do that, for that piece of magic to be a miracle. I want people to be amazed. I don't want you to be sloppy. I don't want you to perform it poorly. I don't want you to be exposing the secret by not practicing it and not knowing what you're doing. I want you to understand that one piece inside and out. I want you to do it phenomenally. I want you to dazzle people with it. Really make people's lives more magical. Even if that is the only piece of magic that you do, I am all for people who perform magic to be the best that they can be. I would prefer, and I will get into this later in a whole other podcast about exposure, I would like this to take place behind some sort of barrier. I really would. I don't think it's appropriate for there to be magic secrets everywhere on the internet, easy to find. I don't think people should be able to type in a description of a magic trick they just saw into Google and find out how it's done, or have somebody making a YouTube tutorial or an expose. I performed on Penn and Teller. There are people who have made videos trying to explain how I fooled Penn and Teller. They're not right, and they're not teaching the trick. They're literally just trying to expose the trick, and they're not right. And there's always people in the comments trying to expose magic, and virtually any magic video that you're going to find on these platforms. And your goal as a magician is not to stop people from trying to expose magic when they are commenting on your videos. You don't want to stop them from trying to figure out how the trick is done. I think that's part of the fun for people, to talk about what they've seen in a show and to be flabbergasted and to really talk to each other and exhaust all options and methods, and just be bewildered as to how something is done. I believe that debate is a healthy debate for the audience. I want them to be in communion with each other in that way. I don't think, as a magician, though, that it is responsible or good, or that you can even really call yourself a magician if you're just openly sharing secrets, real secrets online. I'm not talking about, a little piece of magic that you teach a 7-year-old kid. Here's a fun trick you can do, Johnny, for your friends, and you show them a very simple, easy magic trick. I'm talking about guys who are calling themselves professional magicians, and they're just blatantly exposing real secrets that professionals use, and great routines that professionals use day in, day out. And I don't find it appropriate. I think all that stuff should be discussed and should be taught. If the people who created it and who have worked on it want to talk about it in that way, that's great. I think it should be behind some barrier. I just want to say that because a lot of people confuse my position and think a lot of people don't understand exposure and magic. They think that being a magic. I've heard this comment, and I've heard the same comment from several people. So it's sort of weird. It's almost like they're pre-programmed in a way to respond the same way. But the argument I've heard is, well, there's tutorials on, how to fix your car online. Do they make mechanics go out of business? And you know, to me, that's such a false equivalent. I mean, a mechanic is somebody who fixes cars. A car is designed, and that art of, being a mechanic is not something that is secret. I mean, you can, and it's not meant to be secret. Everybody uses cars. Magic, on the other hand, is a secret art. Magic is dependent on secrets. If there's no secrets in magic, you're not going to have a lot of magic effects that are effective. And if everybody knows the secrets to every single magic piece, that is not going to just boost a high level of creativity and force. Well, that's the other thing I've heard people say. It's going to help people, become more creative, and that's another silly argument that I hear. I just think that a magician is somebody who does the impossible, or in most cases, seems to do the impossible. A magician is not somebody who just does tricks. And you have people who are not magicians, people who just do tricks, exposing secrets of magicians. They learn the secrets of magicians and never really become magicians. They just become guys and girls who can do a few card tricks or a few magic tricks. Never really a real magician. They expose the secrets of magicians. I personally don't find it right, but alas, I will not. It's so hard for me to get off this topic because it really does bother me, and and it also bothers me the laissez-faire attitude that people have around it. But I did want to touch on that. If you are using the internet, and I suggest any magician who is active today use the internet, and you are using one of these public social media platforms, these platforms where you can share videos and share your message and your magic, that you should be using these platforms in order to share magical experiences for people and not damage the art of magic. Focus on sharing great magic. That should be your primary goal if you're a performing magician. Share great magic with people, perform great magic for people, and use that leverage in order to get people to experience great magic in real life. And once people experience those great experiences in magic, the level of magic goes up automatically, because the public is more aware about magic. They are exposed to magic, so they're able to develop a taste, and they're able to decide what's good and what's bad. And that's what people need in order for magic to flourish as an art. They need to be exposed to magic, but more than being exposed to magic, they need to be exposed to the performance of great magic by great magicians. That's all I have to say. That's my opinion. You guys can do with it what you want. I hope this provided some clarity, and I hope you guys do use these platforms responsibility, and you do share magic with people. I want you to inspire people. I've been inspired by many people in my life. I've used many platforms to reach me, and I hope that I do the same in the work that I do, and I hope that anybody listening to this is doing the same in their work in magic. So that's all I have to say. Again, don't want to fight anyone, don't want to get into the exposure stuff yet. I will, but I want to sort of send you my best wishes and let you guys know that you can use this to do positive things in the world. Thank you, and I will talk to you guys next week. Guys next week. Guys next week. Guys next week.